mean you're not going to vote? You got to use your vote. You got to choose who you want in. We live in a democracy, you know.
There is, however, the small issue of every single political party that actually has a hope of getting even a MP seat is actively against my political values in one way or another. Here are the sort of biggest issues I see with all of these parties. Whether they're pro-mass immigration, if they are, I'm not going to vote for them. If they are Zionist or particularly run by Jews, then I'm not going to vote for them. Or if they're going to remove any sort of human rights acts, then I'm not going to vote for them. And let's start with people at the bottom of the board, because they're the most left-wing and therefore should theoretically be the furthest away from my ideology, and then we'll work up and we'll see the issues. Even a single tick in front of one of these parties means that I'm not going to vote for them, and a lot of them have multiple ticks. Greens, are they pro-mass immigration? Yes, big tick there. They actively support the concept of completely open borders. They call any sort of border control inhumane. Is not difficult to see. Are they Jewish? Well, interesting one. Zach Polansky himself is a Jewish man, but is against Zionism and actively criticises the IDF, actually, and their actions in Palestine, which I do as well. But there is the small issue of him still being extremely, extremely Jewish, even if he isn't directly connected to Zionism. Zach Polansky's birth name was David Palmers, yet in his late teens he changed his name to Zach Polansky, which was one of his female relatives' maiden names, one of his Jewish relatives. And so he actively changes his name from one which is very British to one which is extremely Jewish. For what reason? He clearly sees himself as very Jewish and not as very British, so I don't want him running my British country, personally. It would be the same with any other race or ethnicity, right, or cultural identity or nationality, whatever. So, tick there. Are they going to support removing human rights? Not directly, no, so I can't really put a tick there. Fair enough to them, but I'm not going to vote for them because of these two issues here. Lib Dems, pro-mass immigration, yes, they are not quite as open border focused as Greens, but they are still pro-mass immigration. They have no plans to restrict immigration, and so I'm not going to vote for them. Not particularly Jewish, they're not going to remove any human rights from what I can see. Maybe they do have some particular funding, like all of the other parties, but who knows? Not from what I can see. So I'm not going to vote for them. Labour, pro-mass immigration, not really. Not particularly either way. I mean, they're pretty centrist, I guess. Andy Burnham may change things. I haven't looked into his policy enough, but we'll see. So I can't really say anything there, but they're not exactly deporting people beyond people who have just illegally immigrated into the country. Jewish Zionist, big yes. They are a very Zionist party. Keir Starmer's wife is Jewish and his kids are being raised as Jewish children. You look at the Fabian Society, which is sort of the organisation that every single high-ranking Labour member and every single Labour Prime Minister ever has been filtered through. The Fabian Society actually started the Labour Party back in the back in the late 1800s. And they are very, very Jewish, very, very Zionist as well. So big tick there. Remove human rights? Not really. Tiny tick because of the censorship issues. And there are some big issues there, but they're not really leaving the ECHR or repealing Human Rights Act or anything. So not that much, but I still wouldn't vote for them. Conservatives, pro-mass immigration, again, like kind of. That what Kemi Badenoch is saying is like not particularly pro-mass immigration, but herself, 6 years ago, she was going around proclaiming herself as a Nigerian nationalist in the UK, by the way. And she is herself Nigerian. And you look at the last 14 years, and the Conservatives, after the Blair era, just massively snowballed everything so that we had like proper mass immigration as we know it today. And also after Brexit, they didn't put any effort into restricting immigration either. Immigration increased after Brexit, and we had even more problematic immigrants because it wasn't EU members anymore. It was Pakistanis, Eritreans, Somalians, Indians, Nigerians, which are more problematic than Romanians and Polish people. Jewish/Zionist? Yes, they are. They have always been pretty supportive of the Jewish state and the Jewish actions, all the way back to Winston Churchill. And that is all history, but those things still continue today in the modern day Conservative Party, so I'm not going to vote for them. Remove the Human Rights Act? Not really, from what I can see, who knows though. But yeah, I'm not going to vote for them. Reform pro-mass immigration? Not really. There are some issues with how Nigel Farage has shifted massively into a much more liberal idea of civic nationalism, but I can't really say they're pro-mass immigration. Jewish funded Zionist? Yes, they are. It's not difficult to see. You look at the funding, you look at what Nigel Farage has said on Twitter, you look at what loads of different reform members, high-ranking reform members have said on the news and interviews, ... And also all of the high-ranking Conservatives who are themselves Zionists are coming into reform and are making it much more Zionist. And they are going to remove the Human Rights Act and leave the ECHR, which is a big problem. Restore? They're not pro-mass immigration, but they are Zionist/Jewish, and they are going to remove the Human Rights Act. So, yeah, looking at this thing, the people that I'm least likely to vote for are Labour. The people I'm most likely to vote for are Lib Dem, but you would not catch me dead voting for Lib Dems. So I have no one to vote for, and I'm not going to give the grace of my vote to a party which is actively against my values. What I am going to do, therefore, if this option does come up, and what I would encourage you to do, is vote for a local independent candidate who is not pro-mass immigration, who is not Zionist, and who isn't promising you, like it's a good thing, that they're going to remove your human rights. If I did make any issues about party policies in this video, which I'm sure I did, I'm not that well read, then please do let me know in the comments. But thanks for watching. See you soon.